I want to dedicate this class to my daughter, Shira, who just had a baby girl, and the Ima and the daughter are recovering fine, and it's a great joy for us and for hopefully all Am Yisrael. We should pass many happy days together with these great events in our lives. Today we're learning in Likutei Moharan about some pretty intense stuff. You know, you come across these Torahs and you can't even believe it. The Rebbe tells us that that when you bring the kingship back to its root, we learned yesterday. How do we do this? By doing vidui before a Talmid Chacham, like Moshe Rabbeinu. And every Talmid Chacham has an aspect of Moshe Rabbeinu that takes your words of vidui and elevates them and brings an atonement to the person. Because when you face a person like that and you tell him what you've done wrong, it's fire, it's shame. Shame is equivalent to fire, and that is a purification, but that's bringing the Malchut back to its root. And the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us, Lama ta'a Navat. So Navat was the father of Avraham ben Navat, and he was Avraham was not a righteous guy, and he caused a tremendous amount of problems and sin in Am Yisrael, and he misled people with 2 golden calves. Rabbi Nachman teaches that those golden calves were not simply gold statues, but they were occult articles that had powers. He's not specific, but I imagine that they probably could cause hallucinations and various things like that people would be really wowed by. But nonetheless, he was not the ideal of a king. He was one of the kings of the 10 tribes, but he led the people to sin. Now, Navat was his father, and it says here an interesting thing. Lamata Navat. What was Navat, the father of this evil king? What was his mistake? He had a vision. Shira yatsa eish me'amato. He saw fire come out of his loins. Now, this is not a particularly pleasant image, but he interpreted it as a good thing, and he didn't understand that it wasn't a good thing. But what it's showing us, though, that the Amma, of course, is the Bris Kodesh, and the fire comes out of there. That's the idea of kingship and fire unified together. And so what happened was this fire was his son who led people to serve idols, etc., etc. Who, by the way, the punishment for serving idols is death through fire. Now, Torah nikret esh, but the Torah is also called fire. So fire is a metaphor for many things in Torah. Esh Torah, right? The famous yeshiva. Well, Esh is the most powerful of the 4 elements. In terms of the fire has the ability to transform water and earth and air. Now, all the elements have impact on each other according to their relative balance to each other. But nonetheless, here we're talking about the 8th Eish of the Torah, Shemishama Malchut, because someone who has Torah has real kingship. Whether they're righteous or not, if they have Torah, they can aspire to kingship. And Hashem said to the prophet Yirmiyah, all my words are like fire. And kings will rule through that fire of Torah. But the essential transference of Torah through Am Yisrael is through the learned, through the Talmidei Hachamim. Como shamru Chazal, kama tipsha'ei. Kaima mikame sefer Torah velo kaima. Mikame tzur merabanan. How foolish are people that they will stand before a sefer Torah when it's carried across the synagogue. But if a real Talmid Hacham stands up, they won't pay attention, or they won't know that they should stand for him too, because he's a living sefer Torah. If a Talmid Hacham is really on the level. And he has the whole Torah inside him, flowing out of him. And he can talk and breathe and communicate. Right? And so they get up for the regular scroll, but they won't get up for a human being. And this usually has to do with, of course, our own resistance to showing honor to other people and respect, etc. But for Torah, it's not really for the person. When you show Torah respect for a Torah person, you're showing respect not to him, but to his Torah. It's a big difference. Okay. V'kol davar asher yavo be'esh. Now, the laws of kashrut come from the Torah, from the Chumash. In Sefer B'Midbar, it tells us, Kol davar asher yavo be'esh, anything that was used in fire, like a frying pan that's put in fire, etc., ta'aviru be'esh. To kosher it, you have to push it back through fire. Now, that's a metaphor for us. It's something that has a root in fire, needs to be fixed by fire. How do we see it? This is the idea of the kingship again. That when the malchut is taken through tuma, when the leaders go off and go astray and lead the people afar from Hashem, that's the malchut, the fire taken the wrong way, and it leads to the fire of impurity. Which is expressed another way as the heat of the evil inclination. And it's written there, Nura Be'amram, and there is a piece of Gemara, Mesechah Kedushin, that says there is a fire in the house of Amram. Now, of course, that's a very positive thing. We're speaking about Moshe Rabbeinu because he's the root of Torah. It's brought through fire to be fixed. So ta'aviru be'esh means to bring our impurity before the fire of the Talmid Chacham. And he purifies it just like you put a frying pan through the fire. That when you go and we tell a Talmid Chacham what we've done wrong, that fire of shame is the actual purification process, just like koshering a pot or a pan that has been used in fire by someone who wasn't kosher, and then you want to make it kosher. So you see, the metaphor works perfectly. And that's bringing it to the fire in the house of Amram. The house of Amram, of course, is Moshe, and he's the Talmid Chacham who has that fire that can purify. And now he goes on to tell us, V'lashon avera shehetzeruv avera over b'toch atzmotav. And we learned also before that when a person sins, they flip-flop the letters of holiness that create the energy field of a mitzvah or of a pasuk. And so when we change the letters from like onig to nega, ayin, nun, gimel means pleasure, onig, and it's when you switch it around to nega, just by putting the nun first, we turn the pleasure into a blemish. Or a nega can go all the way to the level of tzarat, which is a skin disease. But nonetheless, it is the reversing the light. Like we said before, Pesha, right, is the letters of Shefa. You receive holiness, you get Shefa. And you turn it around the wrong way, and it turns to Pesha, sin, or crime, if you will. So this is what the Rebbe is saying, is Jetzeruv Shel Avera, that the letter combination is been engraved on a person's bones, and it has to be lifted off by the purification process, which is fire, me'ever el ever, and it goes from his bones, from bone to bone, from limb to limb, because we are spiritual skeletons as well, not just physical. And they moves from limb to limb. Mitzvah lashon hitchabrut, and the mitzvah is the joining of those limbs. And then and then the broken parts of a person's bones, those parts that have been separated from Hashem, are brought back together, as it is written, Shomer kol atzmotav. And then David HaMelech said, God guards all my bones. Why does he say that specifically, my bones? If you said God guards me, well, we understand that pretty well. But to say God guards my bones, well, you think, well, what, do you have a problem with your bones? Well, here he's talking about the spiritual bones of the soul that carry the tserufim of the letters of holiness. So I hope that wasn't too complicated. It's the kind of thing that you kind of have to read over and try to see it in your mind's eye. When you learn Kabbalah, tachazeh, kind of try to see it. The image, the skeleton, the letters of the verses of the commands turned around like Pesha, Shefa, Nega, Oneg, etc., they get turned back around to holiness. The negative impressions are lifted off a person. And you really feel that when a person does tshuva. And the main aspect of the tshuva we're learning here is that difficult moment of shame, which is fire, which purifies the vessel, whether it's, a pot or a pan or a person's being. Okay. Now moving on to the next paragraph, Zion, the 7th paragraph, Hamat Melech Malachei Mavet. Now this is a pleasant verse from King Shlomo told us a secret, the anger of the king is the angels of death. So we don't want to deal with that, right? But when a king gets angry, he has the power of death, and he has that, so spiritually he has the power to send out the angels of death. Literally. But when we go to the King of Kings and his anger, the whole universe is in trouble. And the whole anger, God's anger, where does it come from? It comes from man who throws down the kingship of God. Very simple. When a human being does something that is against Hashem in front of other people, and people see, especially a religious Jew that does something against Hashem in public, it's taking the kingship of God and throwing it down in the mud, and Hashem doesn't like that. He gets upset with that. And so what happens? He gets angry, and his anger is Malachei Mavet. We don't want to go there. But he tells us the secret, the fix. How do we do it? Each chacham yechaperena, a wise man can bring kapara, atonement, the fixing that we need. Hayinu bechina talmid hacham. Hacham, of course, is an aspect of the person who is a student of the wise. You notice in Judaism, we don't call ourselves wise; we call ourselves students. It's an important shift in language. So a student of the wise, he has this power to bring atonement. In other words, he can take the other person's anger and he can turn it around. Now, this is something that you learn in graduate school in psychology. If you want to be a good therapist, you have to be able to absorb other people's anxiety, their fear, their worry, their suffering. And a good healer knows this too. A doctor should know this, but well, let's not go there tonight. But a rabbi also needs to have this skill. And so does a counselor, for that matter. And that is that ability to empathize and to bring love and compassion to the place of people's pain, especially when they get angry. And to pacify and calm them before damage is done. So Ish Hacham Yechaperena, the wise man can bring the atonement. And there are many ways to do it, many different types of skills involved. But the Rebbe tells us this is the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu, hu yichaper lo, and he's the man, the ultimate example of it. Moshe can bring kapara to the entire world, like they say about Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai. That Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai can tilt the whole world to the side of merit. One man. Because that's how integrated our world is spiritually. The positive energy has that power. And how is that possible? How does Moshe have this power of atonement? Over al pesha l'she'erit, because he moves over the sin to the remainder of the people. It's the people who are really in trouble in Am Yisrael that need the most mercy, the most compassion, and they need to have those sins removed. He plays on the word she'erit, the last or the remnant of the people. It's related to the root of the word for Shira, the leftovers of the people, right? And a person who makes himself like the leftover of the people, he's the most precious in God's eyes because he lowers himself for others. And this is not something that you just do and, you copy somebody else. It's something you really have to feel and live. And when a person comes before a Talmid Chacham, and he tells him what he's done wrong, and he lifts off those sins, and those evil letter combinations of Talmid Chacham, who bechinat Moshe, the one who's at Moses' level, who has this humility to make himself like the nothing, like the dust, as is from Moshe ha'anav me'od, that Moses was the humblest of men. That's where you get the real wisdom. That the wisdom is in the humility. It's not in the knowledge of the books. Because when you have humility, then you automatically understand the way the system works much better. You work from inside the system. And the wise, where do I find the wisdom? This is from from Eov says. Eov had a lot of troubles before and after his meetings with Pharaoh. But where I will find the wisdom. And from this humility, he has the power to bring atonement. That a wise man will bring atonement. So, this is really a brilliant thing. That the most humble man can fix all those places in others and lift off those sins and bring atonement and bring compassion and understanding to the people who are suffering. So we all need that. And we all need to understand how it works. Not that we're all going to set out to be that guy, to be that Moses. We don't need to be. What we need to be is the best that we can be as ourselves. But when we understand that it's that compassion and empathy, we can also have that for our kids and for our students and for our friends and for even our politicians and our policemen and all the people that are out there. Well, you know what's going on in the world. Everybody needs compassion now more than ever. So we have to look for that and in ourselves, and we'll have it to give to others. So I want to end with that, and we'll see you again tomorrow and continue this strange week in history, and hopefully we're going to have a positive ending to what's going on out there in the greater world. But here in the Torah, we always find the answers that we need, as you see tonight. And we have to find that person that we can tell them what we're going through, and speak of our shame. And that is going to actually repair what we've done. God bless all of you. We'll see you again tomorrow, and all the best.